Actions can be easily misconstrued by the people who witness it. It is easy to judge a person's actions off of what is seen without knowing anything about what happened. Many people do not realize that someone's motives goes hand in hand with their actions. Often, a person's judgment will change if they know why something happened as compared to just seeing or hearing about it. Sometimes, if someone explains why they did something or what their intentions were, it can improve a negative or confusing situation. Motivation is a big role in life. Thinking before you act increases the chance of a good result. In this segment, the following question will be discussed. How does a person's motivation and beliefs towards an event or cause affect how his actions are viewed? The novel In the Time of the Butterflies touches upon this question. Each sister has different reasons for fighting Trujillo and fighting in the revolution, and regardless, they join together to make the butterflies. In addition to explaining why the butterflies went off to fight against Trujillo, Alvarez takes the time to discuss why Didi does not. Didi Mirabal was the only surviving sister of the four who stayed behind when her sisters went off to fight against Trujillo, a dictator over the Dominican Republic. Minerva has an excellent quote that exemplifies how people thought of Trujillo, stating that the idea of believing that Trujillo has done something bad is similar to the idea of disbelieving in Jesus. With Didi, she believed in Trujillo as well, until realizing that the Trujillo she believed in did not exist. But as she gets older and finds a man, Aimito, it becomes more difficult for her to act upon her hatred for Trujillo. Although she loved him dearly, he was incredibly controlling and held her back for most of their relationship. Didi does end up getting married to him and has 3 kids with Jaimito, Enrique, Rafael, and David. One day, in 1960, Patria comes to Didi to discuss leaving to fight against Trujillo in the revolutionary cell. Although Didi considers it and silently decides to leave Jaimito, she still doubts herself and the situation. She heads off to Padre de Jesus for advice, but when she found out he was probably a revolutionist, she fled in confusion. Didi is very scared of what Jaimito thinks and says, and is often ashamed of it. She explains in the novel that it was hard to tell her sisters how Jaimito had control over her, and when she did, she felt as though her own husband's insecurities and worries brought her down in her own life. In her sisters' eyes, Didi was weak and seen as unjust because of this. In their eyes, her actions were not justified by her opinions and motives because it was truly just her own fears, which they found selfish. But really the main thing they focused on, despite the disappointment in Didi's reasoning, was the fact that no matter what, she wasn't going to join to help them. Despite her motives and her cause, she was not helping them out, and that put her into a very negative light, especially to Minerva, who Didi began to fight with at this point. Minerva snaps at Didi. She judges Jaimito, Papa, and Didi for being passive and scared, and gets angry that they won't do what they know is right. After this, Minerva and Didi are on bad terms. Minerva is a very big advocate of fighting against Trujillo, and judges her sister for not being the same. She's also shocked the sister she knew was succumbing to peer pressure by a man. At the time, suppression of a woman was a very real issue. To sum up, in this situation, the motives behind their actions are incredibly important to know. Didi's motives were fear and confusion, which made her decisions of not supporting her sisters to be seen as spineless and incorrect at the time. At the end of the book, Didi hints towards a feeling of guilt because of her actions, a feeling of misaction. And I see them all there in my memory, as still as statues. Mama and Papa and Minerva and Mate and Patria, and I'm thinking something is missing now. And I count them all twice before I realize it's me, Didi, it's me, the one who survived to tell the story. Alvarez 321. The feeling of wanting to be with her family, being the one missing, stems from the fact that she had no way to back up her own decision. She had no motives. She had no explanation. Her sisters left with a different opinion on her. This can also be related to the real world. Take, for example, Edward Snowden, who was wanted on U.S. espionage charges and fled to Hong Kong. In 2013, the government was looking for him everywhere, as he traveled across the world fleeing from their grasp. This man had done something that could either be seen as impossibly dumb or incredibly heroic, letting people know about the NSA surveillance systems and how everyone is being watched and tracked. Despite his prior knowledge of the consequences, he went through with leaking the secret documents anyways. Edward Snowden was quoted himself saying he wanted to let the innocent citizens know they were being watched and listened to, and was aware of his actions and the consequences. He appeared on the CNN News for an interview at one point before fleeing, and it became viral across the web. Snowden decided to do it because Obama worsened abusive practices instead of curtailing them as he promised. He had to then flee the country before the government caught on to the documents being leaked to avoid being targeted. He was faced with many charges by the U.S. and was asked to come back to face them in court. However, Snowden knew that espionage charges did not allow you to stick up for yourself or support yourself in front of a jury in order to convince them. Many people, once they found out that Big Brother was always watching, supported Snowden. He was a third-party political believer who did not vote for Obama or Romney in the 2008 election and the following election after that. His cause was clear: inform the people, stop the government from worsening the situation, keep the people safe, make sure the people were protected, just like the butterflies were trying to do. He wasn't selfish, but instead incredibly selfless, leaking those documents and speaking out against the situation. This allowed many people to view his actions as selfless and helpful rather than stupid and pointless. Therefore, his beliefs and motives worked to his advantage. And so it raises the question: can your motives and reasons back your actions all the time? In Dee Dee's case, it did not with her sisters. In Snowden's case, it didn't get him off the hook with the government. So let's take a look at the Westboro Baptist Church, one of the most viral churches online and also known to be incredibly hated if you're not part of the church itself. They strike gay marriages, the funerals of dead veterans, and tend to be racist and homophobic. Many people strike their own strikes and poke fun at the amount of hate they have for pretty much everything. Their cause is to support God and Jesus and follow the Bible because it's what God wants. However, that does not cut it with many people, and many people dismiss their motives. So, how do your motives and reasonings affect your actions and how people view them? Have you ever been judged for saying something to someone when you really had good intentions, but they were perceived the wrong way? Motives and causes really help people to understand better what you are doing and why you are doing it, rather than viewing your action any certain way. It is the action in itself that people judge, the action in itself that gives someone a preconceived notion. Only the people who are able to stop their judgments, look past what you have done or said or did, and are able to use the motives and causes to back up your actions. And personally, I have seen that to be rare. So what the people should do at home is try doing that themselves. Try to allow someone's motives or causes to allow you to judge their actions more appropriately. And if you already do that, then of course their actions and their motives affect how you view their actions. It gives you reason, it gives you thinking material and a better understanding of what is happening and why. Rather than judge the cover of the book, view all the little details inside. I hope that through the novel In the Time of the Butterflies has helped you to see all the sides of this discussion and allows you to see that in many cases, although motives do help, it's the action that defines people's opinions.